Yesterday I talked about how the Islanders need to focus on the draft, and specifically the draft lottery. I didn't talk about the prospects at all, right? Let's start talking about that and just look at the top 15 prospects at the 2022 draft. Now, as you can imagine, there's no consensus on who the top 15 prospects are at the draft. If you look at Sportsnet, TSN, Elite Prospects, Bob McKenzie, so on and so forth, there's a lot of fluctuation on who is where in the top 15. There's a bit of a lock, or there's definitely a lock when it comes to the number one. It's Shane Wright. But outside of that, things go wild depending on who you look at. So there's no real kind of like, that's the guy from 1 to 15. So what I did is I looked at 6 different rankings and built my own ranking. So here are the 6 rankings I looked at and the players in order from 1 to 15. And you'll see right away that there's a big difference. You can see that Juraj Slafkovsky is maybe 4th if you look at Sportsnet, but all the way, I think the lowest one I saw for him was Elite Prospects, and he's like 8th. There's a big difference for just that one prospect. Or Joakim Kemmel, right, is second for Sportsnet, but is 6th or 7th for The Athletic. That's a big difference from 2nd to 6 or 7. Now, what I did to build my ranking is I took all those 6 rankings and I gave each player points based off of their position in those rankings. So player number 1, if you're sitting first, you got 15 points. If you're sitting 15th, you got 1 point. Put them all together, and here's my top 15. You got Shane Wright, Joakim Kemmel, Matt Savoie, Logan Cooley, Simon Nemec, Danila Yurov, David Juraj Slafkovsky, I think I pronounced that right, Brad Lambert, Frank Nazar, Ivan Miroshnichenko, I think I did that right, Connor Geeky, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, Isaac Howard, and Denton Matichuk. Now I had a 3-way tie at 15th because they all had 9 points, and what stood out to me is I did NHLE for all of these prospects to give us a sense of where they are. And the tiebreaker for 15th went to the player with the highest NHLE, and that was Denton. Now, of course, NHLE is not the be-all end-all, right? I've said it before, there are problems with that stat, but it does give us a good sense on being able to compare and contrast these players. So while I've been able to rank them based off of how they've ranked in other rankings, if I can use that word a million times, adding NHLE to this gives us a bit more context in how these players compare and contrast to one another, right? When you've got players that have like a 26-point NHLE only fitting 2nd, you're going, all right, Joakim Kemmel there's something going on there. If the Islanders step up to 2nd, they definitely they have to take him. They absolutely have to take Joakim Kemmel. They have a 5.8 chance of doing that right now, and that might get worse as it goes, as we've talked about. But you look at other players, and Simon Nemec, we've seen him lower in draft rankings, and he's got a 27.8 NHLE. David Juraj, 29.01 NHLE, and he's also been lower than Simon Nemec in different rankings. If the Islanders step up to the podium and either one of those guys are up there, I would absolutely grab them without hesitation, either one of them. You're talking about a defenseman who's putting up points in a pretty darn good league. These guys aren't, I'm going to say, NHL ready, but the Islanders need more defensive depth in their system after they pull out Robin Salo, and one of these guys could very well do the trick in a couple of years for them. I would 100% reach for them. So I think this gives us further context to start looking at these players individually, right? And again, remember, we're only February 17th. There's still a few more months of hockey left for these players to develop and put up more points and stand out more. So this could very well change come draft time. But I think now that we know where we are in the draft standings, what our odds are in terms of moving up, and now that we know what the top 15 prospects are, it gives us a further kind of context into what we can do come draft day, assuming we keep the pick, that is. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. And if you have, thank you, thank you, thank you.